Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Reading with Leon. We are going to read The Little House, Her Story by Virginia Lee Burton. It's a Caldecott Award book. I thought it might be about Little House on the Prairie, but I don't think it is. But I'm still excited to read it because I've never read it before. So, let's see here. It says, once upon a time, there was a little house way out in the country. That is my perfect place to live. I would love to live in the country. She was a pretty little house, and she was strong and well built. The man who built her so well said, "This little house shall never be sold for gold or silver, and she will live to see our great-great-grandchildren's great-great-grandchildren living in her." That sounds like an amazing idea. The little house was very happy as she sat on the hill and watched the countryside around her. She watched the sun rise in the morning. She watched the sun set in the evening. Day followed day, each one a little different from the one before. But the little house stayed just the same. I forgot to show you the picture. I'm sorry. I love the way they did the sun. Sorry, I need a drink. In the night, she watched the moon grow from a thin new moon to a full moon, and then back to a thin old moon. And when there was no moon, she watched the stars twinkle, 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 twinkle. Way off in the distance, she could see the lights of the city. The little house was curious about the city and wondered what it would be like to live there. She doesn't want to live there. I'd much rather be in the country. Time passed quickly for the little house as she watched the countryside slowly change with the seasons. In the spring, when the days grew longer and the sun warmer, she waited for the first robin to return from the south. She watched the grass turn green. She watched the buds on the trees swell and the apples burst into blossom. She watched the children playing in the brook. I love the smell of apple blossoms, and I love watching the buds in the springtime. I didn't love summer so much. I think, I kind of like fall too because there's Halloween. But I do like spring. Especially like sitting where you can watch outside as it rains, but sit out there and smell the petrichor. Petrichor means the smell of dirt after the rain. There's a vocab word for you today. Did I show you the picture? I got so busy talking that I forgot. Okay, next. In the long summer days, she sat in the sun warming. She watched the trees cover themselves with leaves, and the white daisies cover the hill. She watched gardens grow. She watched the apples turn red and ripen. Yum, yum, yum. And apples smell so good, too. She watched the children in the swimming pool. I love to swim. And daisies are one of my favorite flowers, and I'm so happy that they're on the book. One of the reasons I got the book, too, because it has daisies. In the fall, when the days grew colder and the days grew shorter and the nights grew colder, she watched the first frost turn the leaves from bright yellow to orange and red, which is so pretty. I love the fall colors. She watched the harvest gathered and the apples picked. She watched the children go back to school. Look how pretty that is. Although here in the fall, our grass is still green, so I think the grass still should have been green. In the winter, when the nights were long and the days were short, and the countryside was covered in snow. I think snow is so pretty, but I'd much rather be inside and be warm. She watched the children coasting and skating. Year followed year, apple trees grew old and new ones were planted. The children grew up and went away to the city. And now at night, the lights of the city seemed brighter and closer. I hope she doesn't get covered up by the city. Oh no. One day, the little house was surprised to see a horseless carriage coming down the winding country road. Pretty soon there were more of them on the road and fewer carriages pulled by horses. Pretty soon along came some surveyors and surveyed a line in front of the little house. Pretty soon along came a steam shovel and dug a road through the hill covered with daisies. No, they're getting rid of the daisies. And then some trucks came and dumped big stones on the road. And then some trucks with little stones, and then some trucks with tar and sand. And finally a steamroller came and it smoothed it and rolled it all smooth, and the road was done. Oh, why'd they have to get rid of the daisies? Oh, and look, the guy that made the house is a little old man. Now the little house watched the trucks and automobiles going back and forth to the city. Gasoline stations, roadside stands, and small houses followed the new road. Everyone and everything moved much faster than before. Oh, looks like I don't want their house to go. I don't want the pretty yard to get all gone. Oh, it's actually a sad book. Roads were made and the countryside was divided into lots. More houses and bigger houses, apartment houses and tenement houses. Those are kind of like big apartment buildings. Schools, stores, and garages spread over the land and crowded around the little house. No one wanted to live in her and take care of her anymore. She couldn't be sold for gold or silver, so she just stayed there and watched. No one's in the house. I'll buy the house. Let me have the house. Poor house. And the pond is gone. The pond and the apple trees. I'm going to cry about a house. Now it was not so quiet and peaceful at night. Now the lights of the city were bright and very close, and the street lights shone all night. This must be living in the city, thought Little House, and didn't know whether she liked it or not. She missed the fields of daisies and the apple trees dancing in the moonlight, and you can't see the stars when there's street lights there. I'm going to cry over a house. Pretty soon there were trolley cars going back and forth in front of the little house. They went back and forth all day and part of the night. Everyone seemed to be very busy and everyone seemed to be in a hurry. Did I show you guys that one? Kind of like the stars in the sky, but Little House can't see the stars anymore. Pretty soon there was an elevated train going back and forth above the little house. The air was filled with dust and smoke, and the noise was so loud that it shook Little House. Now she couldn't tell when spring came, or summer, or fall, or winter. It all seemed about the same. I bet that made the days really long. Poor Little House. Pretty soon there was a subway going back and forth underneath Little House. She couldn't see it, but she could feel it and hear it. People were moving faster and faster. No one noticed the little house anymore. They hurried by without a glance. That's how it is in the city. No one notices things. Pretty soon they tore down the apartment houses and the tenement houses around Little House and started digging big cellars, one on each side. The steam shovels dug down 3 stories on each side and 3 stories on one side and 4 stories on the other side. Pretty soon they started building up. They built up 25 stories on one side and 35 stories on the other side. Poor Little House is going to feel super duper little. but I bet she has more room in it than the apartments do. Now the little house only saw the sun at noon and didn't see the moon or stars at night at all because the lights of the city were too bright. She didn't like living in the city. At night she used to dream of the country and the fields of daisies and the apple trees dancing in the moonlight. The little house was very sad and lonely. Her paint was cracked and dirty. Her windows were broken and her shutters hung crookedly. She looked shabby, though she was just as good a house as ever underneath. Someone buy the little house and fix it up and move it back to the country. Then one fine morning in spring, along came the great-great-granddaughter of the man who built the little house so well. She saw the shabby house, but she didn't hurry by. There was something about the little house that made her stop and look again. She said to her husband, "That little house looks just like the little house my grandmother lived in when she was a little girl, only that little house was way out in the country on a hill covered with daisies and apple trees growing around." They found out it was the very same house. So they went to the movers to see if the little house could be moved. Yay! Is the little house going to be moved? I'm so excited. The movers looked the little house all over and said, "Sure, this house is as good as ever. She's built so well, we could move her anywhere." Yay! So they jacked up the little house and put her on wheels. Traffic was held up for hours as they slowly moved her out of the city. Yay! She's gonna go back to the country with the daisies and the apple trees. And hopefully they fix her up real nice. At first the little house was frightened. I'd be scared too. But after she got used to it, she rather liked it. They rolled along the big road, and they rolled along the little roads until they were way out in the country. When the little house saw the green grass and heard the birds singing, she didn't feel sad anymore. They went along and along, but they couldn't seem to find just the right place. They tried the little house here, and they tried the little house there. Finally, they saw a little hill in the middle of the field and apple trees growing all around. "There," said the great-granddaughter, "that is just the place." "Yes, it is," said the little house to herself. A cellar was dug up on top of the hill, and slowly they moved the house from the road to the hill. Yes, oh, the long way they went. The windows and shutters were fixed. Yay! And once again they painted her a lovely shade of pink. That sounds very nice. As the little house settled down on her new foundation, she smiled happily. Once again she could watch the sun and the moon and the stars, and once again she could watch spring and summer and fall and winter come and go. And once again, she was lived in and taken care of. That's so beautiful. I don't want to get rid of this book. I'm going to keep this book. Sometimes I give the books I read away, so that's what I'm saying. Never again would she be curious about the city, and never again would she want to live there. The stars twinkled above her. A new moon was coming up. It was spring, and all was quiet and peaceful in the country. The end. Yay. I'm so happy for the house. So this is probably no good anymore, but it has a children's choice thing in the back. Does not have a website, but you guys could probably look up, because she's a Caldecott winner, probably look up and find this, and probably lots of other Caldecott ones. Looks like it's through Scholastic, Children's Choice Book Club. I don't know if they do that anymore, but if you want, you can Google it and see if Children's Choice is still part of Scholastic and find some good books like this. And you guys have an amazing day and appreciate nature. Have a great day. Bye.